Merry Christmas. Well, that was good. Well, way to go. You guys ready? Anybody got to do some last minute shopping or anything? No. Some of you got to. I'm serious, yeah. This is the first year. I remember looking at my Facebook memories this morning. Anybody do that? And I realized that like every year for the last few years, that's been my tradition, doing last minute Christmas shopping on Christmas Eve. But I didn't do that this year, so I'm so excited. My name is Brandon. If we have not met, would love to meet you after the service today. Really glad that you all have decided to celebrate the coming of Jesus with us today. I would imagine, it's probably safe to assume this, that every one of us loves a story with a hero in it. Like maybe some of you love the prince coming and rescuing the princess and slaying the dragon. Some of you may love superhero stories, Superman and Batman and the X-Men and Wonder Woman, and we could go on and on about all the superhero stories there are out there. Maybe you're like a Star Wars fan. Anybody? Star Wars? There we go. I got to see the new one here soon. Or maybe Indiana Jones. Maybe you love Indiana Jones. Or maybe you love, Chuck Norris. He can defeat anyone. Whatever it is, like there's something about, I'm sure you've probably noticed this. There's something about a story with a hero that we resonate with deeply. There's something about this idea of people needing to be rescued and for anyone coming to the scene of the problem and solving it. There's something about a story with a hero that we all resonate with. And I kind of wonder, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but I kind of wonder that maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe there's a reason that every story that we resonate with has this idea of someone needing rescued. And I'm sure we all resonate with these stories. That's why we watch them. And probably a lot of us, we would long to be the person who would be the hero, right? You show up and hopefully you don't have that tight of pants on, as a superhero. But, you show up, it's fine. You can laugh in church, it's fine, okay? And you show up and you save the day. But I think more than that, I think all of us have a level of resonating with the people in those stories who need rescued. Because all of us have gotten to a point in our lives, right, where we've gotten to a point where we've realized that there's a limitation on our abilities. There's a limitation on our ability to save the day of our own lives. And at the end of the day, there's been moments, right, and I'm sure all of us have been there, where we've thought to ourselves, I need help. I need rescue. And I think that's why we love Christmas. I think that's why 2,000 years later in Bluffton, Indiana, we're celebrating this holiday of Christmas. Why are all of us here today? It's because there was this story, this epic, that if you grasp this, it could be that you would realize that this is almost too good to be true. Because the Christmas is the story of our redemption. It's the story of a hero coming down to rescue all of us. And I think there's just kind of this aching in all of us that tells us, that shows us that we need rescued. Some of us will probably have different things that we feel like we need to be rescued from, but I think at the end of the day, we all need rescued. What if love, imagine with us, for the next 15 or so minutes, and I know some of you who are regularly attending here, you would be very surprised that I can talk for less than 20 minutes, okay? But what if love, what if a never ending, a never stopping, a always there, a relentless love, what if love is really there? What if love is possible? What if one day in the past, love actually came down? Now, I know in a room full of this amount of people, there may be some of us who we're here because that's just what we do on Christmas Eve. It may not be that Jesus has really captured the essence of our heart and we've surrendered fully to him. Maybe some of us are there, and I'm so glad that you're here today. But what if for the next 15 minutes you just thought about that maybe this story really is true? So let's look at it. If you have a Bible, go ahead and turn to John chapter 1. If you don't, it's going to be up on the screen. John chapter 1, this is what the Apostle John says. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. All things were created through him, and apart from him, not one thing was created that has been created. In him was life, and that life was the light of men. That light shines in the darkness, and yet the darkness did not overcome it. The Word that was in the beginning, the Word that was with God and was God. There's something about this Word. And John's not really ready to tell us about who that Word is yet, but let's keep reading. Verse 6, there was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify about the light so that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but he came to testify about the light. The true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was created through him, and yet the world did not recognize him. He came to his own people, and they did not receive him. But to all who did receive him, he gave them the right to be children of God. To those who believe in his name, who were born not of natural descent, or of the will of the flesh, or of the will of man, but of God. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us. We observed his glory, the glory as the one and only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. So imagine this, right? The Word that John is talking about. The one who created everything that we know, everything that we can see, every cell in our body, the Word created. There was not anything that has been made that was not made through him. And this Word came down and was in the world, and the ones in whom he created did not recognize him. It'd be like going to your family gatherings tomorrow and your family, like you open the door to their house and you don't knock because you're fam, right? And so you walk in the door and everyone looks at you and like, who is that? Right? That'd be awkward, right? It'd be kind of like, hey, how's it going? They're like, who are you? That's what the Word was experiencing when the Word came down. The ones in whom he created did not receive him. And why did he come? What was the Word doing? Verse 12, it says what? He came to give us the right to be called children of God. Verse 14, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. And we observed his glory of the one and only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. What if this Word is something that John wants us to see? You see, like, I know that you probably didn't expect that text to be read on Christmas Eve. Right? You're used to Luke, right? And John is like a big picture guy, the Apostle John who wrote this. He's like a big picture guy because he's saying, I know that you know about Luke, and I know that Luke told you about how the angel showed up to Mary and how Mary was told by this angel that she was going to become pregnant and give birth to the Son of God. And I know how Matthew told you about how Joseph, the guy that Mary was engaged to, was really skeptical of all this. Like, hey, honey, what's going on with your belly, right? Oh, it was God. What? You can't come up with a better excuse than that, right? And I know how Matthew told you that at one night after Joseph was wrestling with this, that an angel showed up to him in a dream and was like, hey, just so you know, like Mary's actually telling the truth. It's crazy, I know. But she's telling you the truth. He's saying, I know that you know how the Son of God, Jesus, came into being on this earth. I know the story. I know you know the story. I know that you know that they came into Bethlehem and he was stuck in a feeding trough, right? Because they didn't have any room at the inn and there was no hospital beds for them. There was no nice cushy waiting rooms. But I know that you know that. But what if I think this is what John's trying to show us? He's trying to place Jesus into the overarching story arc of the redemption story of God. He wants us to get the big picture. He wants us to see from the beginning of his story about this Jesus of Nazareth in whom he trusts his life and in whom he walked with and whom he loves. He wants to place this Jesus into the narrative that God has been writing from the beginning of time. He's saying, yes, I know that you know how this baby was born. But you see, I want you to understand that this baby being born was God taking matters into his own hands. That's what this baby means. That is why this is so significant. That is why 2,000 years ago in Bluffton, Indiana, we are sitting here in this room singing and talking about Jesus. The hero has come, and he is full of grace and truth. And friends, that is good news, because if you are here today and you have ever done anything wrong, if you've ever looked at yourself in the mirror and said, I don't really like what I'm seeing, if you've ever looked at your own life in the course of your life and you said, you know what, I don't seem to be doing what I know I need to do, I know I don't measure up, I don't know what is to come, then I'm so glad that you're here, because we worship a king who came down and he is full of grace and truth. And that's what we just sang earlier, right? I once was blind, I could not see, chains of sin had shackled me, but God in heaven heard my plea, and Jesus rescued me. Yes, Jesus rescued me. You see, the story of when the God of grace and truth meets those of us who are broken, that's our story. He changes things. I once was blind, I could not see. Scripture says that without Jesus, here's the thing. This is the crazy story that God has been writing. That not only are we sinners without Jesus, but we are in fact enemies of God. This is what Scripture describes us as if we do not have this relationship with Jesus. So get this. This is the story that God is writing. This is the hero story that we all resonate with. It's the fact that God decided, the king of the universe decided to come down and dwell among us. And it's like he went behind enemy lines, and the people he went to go and save, because he came on a rescue mission. He did not come to save the good guys because he's the only good one in the story. He came to go behind enemy lines to save the enemies, you and me. You see, this is why Christmas is so significant. This story no one would write if it were not true. No one would imagine the king coming down from his throne to deliver those in whom are rebelling against him, those in whom are against him, those in whom are his enemies. No king would do that unless there's a bigger picture at work. You see, the king of the universe came down from his throne in heaven to live and heal and teach and die for not his friends, not his fans, but his enemies. This hero, the one we celebrate at Christmas, is the hero we didn't need. Nope. He's the one we absolutely needed. He's the one we didn't expect to come, but he's the one we all absolutely needed. So can you see it now? What John means when he says we observed his glory, the glory of the one and only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. When he says we have seen his glory, he is saying that, hey, I have seen the fact that this God in whom I worship loves me and loves you so much that even though you have rebelled against him, even though you walk away from him, even though you don't measure up to what his standard is, even though you've walked away from him, even though you've questioned him, even though you have become an enemy as his, he has decided to love you in such a way that would allow you to be delivered from yourself. See, this hero king who leaves the glory of the throne and sets out on a rescue mission, that is the one we worship. So can you see it now, the significance of Christmas? This is what I pray would steep deep down inside of your soul today. That God the Son came down so that you could become a child of God. God the Son came down so that you could become a child of God. It's not so that we could come to Christmas and think like, oh, this is so fun, this is so nice. Well, I love the Christmas music, I love the eggnog, I love it, it's just so good, I love the family time. This is the occasion in which we look upon the story of our lives and we see the fact that the hero we all needed has come, and that's the reason why we all resonate with the hero story of the world. All who did receive him, he gave them the right to be children of God. He is the perfect one who came down not only to become a human and dwell among us, but to put all of our burdens, all of our shame, all of our sin, all of our stuff on himself. And he took it all to Calvary so that you and I could have life, so that we could receive it from him. You see, the promise of Christmas is that anyone and everyone has the opportunity to come and receive grace from the King, The promise of Christmas is that no matter how far you've gone, no matter what your story is, and I know you may have this objection in your mind that like, you know what, I know that's good enough for them over there, but I just can't receive that for me. The promise of Christmas is that God loved you so very much that he decided to come and deliver you out of the shackles of sin, out of the things that have been holding you back from living the life that you know you were always destined to live. You see, the reality is Jesus came as the Son of God to make us into God's sons and daughters. That's the relationship that you've always been missing. If you don't have that, that's the relationship that has always caused angst in your heart. That's the relationship that you've always said, you know what, there just seems to be something missing in this life. There just seems to be something I'm not grasping in this life. Is there something more? I'm sure we've all questioned that. Isn't there something more to this? Isn't there something beyond what I'm seeing? Isn't there something more? The answer is yes. And his name is Jesus. And he's the one who has come to give us a promise because love has come down. And my friends, this love is not one that's going to leave you when you mess up. It's not going to be the love that is just in word but not in deed. It's not going to be the love that you've experienced from another person who has stabbed you in the back or just left you for gone. It's going to be the love that is always there, that is always sustaining, always pursuing, relentlessly as you walk. This love that has come down is the game changer. You see, Jesus has been born, and he came not only to be cute and cuddly in a feeding trough in a manger, but he came to be the victorious king, the one who has put on his back all of your sin, all of your shame, all of your guilt, so that when you die one day, you can be in eternity with God and enjoy the fullness of being a child of his. But the thing is, that promise is not just for when you die, not just for one day when, but it's for today. Each and every one of us, and I know many of you are in this place where you have given your life to Jesus. He is the sustainer of your life. He is the one who has gone before you, and you know that your life is all about him. And you know what it's like to be a child of God. You know what it's like to wake up and know that you are loved no matter what you did the day before. My friends, if I could just say something, I grew up celebrating Christmas, but I didn't know the significance of it. The reason we celebrate is because God saw it fit to make his enemies his children. His enemies, that is you and me. If you've ever sinned a day in your life, that means you've gone against him. And he's not the one who just threw you off at the curb. He's not going to be the one who's going to just leave you in the airport, Home Alone fans. He's not going to leave you home alone. He's going to go back and he's going to find you, relentlessly pursue you, and he will not stop until your heart is surrendered to him, until your life is fully surrendered to him. You see, why do we love hero stories? Why do we love them? Why do we always watch them? It's because that was the story that was written in our hearts. It's the story that we all need. We all know that we need rescue. Doesn't matter how well you think you have your life put together, no matter how great your filters are on Instagram or Facebook, doesn't matter how awesome your Christmas card that you sent your family and friends, the reality is God knows, and he loves you anyway. He knows whatever it is that you've been hiding. He knows whatever it is that you've been holding as a secret. He knows it, and he loves you anyway. And if you ever question that, then all you have to do is remember the fact that Jesus came down, that love has come down. So the question is, when he returns, will we be children of God or children of wrath? Because those are the options. We are either his enemies or his children. You see, the hero has come, and our response to him must be full surrender. Nothing held back. All for him. So here's what I would encourage you to do. If you're here today and you need to know more about who Jesus is, I would encourage you to do one thing. Grab yourself a Bible, and if you don't have one, find me, I'll get you one. And read through the Gospel of John. Just start reading it. And get to know the one in whom we adore. The one in whom came down from his throne in heaven to deliver us so that one day we can be in his throne room in confidence like a children coming to their father. So church, would you stand, and we're going to sing a song expressing our adoration for the Jesus who came.